This vector control team has been conducting operations in Las Flores for 2 weeks, testing, spraying, and educating residents. The community is the current hotspot for dengue, so therefore also a possible prime zone for chikungunya. The name is hard to pronounce, so I'll just call it CHIKV. It is carried by the adult mosquito, just like dengue, and the symptoms are similar, except that there is more pronounced pain in the joints. Its incubation period is anywhere from 3 to 7 days, and the symptoms can persist anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. The case of allegedly confirmed CHIKV was found here in this community.
We don't have a confirmed case of chikungunya. To have a confirmed case of chikungunya means that you have to have a patient that fits the criteria and have also tested positive using either an ELISA test or a PCR test, and testing that has been approved by CDC and WHO. What we do have is an individual who visited a private lab facility in Belmopan. That person did a rapid test with a very popular rapid test that is on the market, and she tested positive using that rapid test.
That sample was sent to the Ministry of Health, which has sent it to Belize City to the central lab for testing with a CDC-approved kit. The results are pending for that specific person, but there are others, 2 to be precise, whose samples are also awaiting confirmation.
We did had an individual who had traveled, a Salvadoran national who had visited, but her test is also pending. We also have a family member of the individual who had tested positive, who has similar symptoms, but has not been even clinically diagnosed. But as a precaution, we also took a blood sample for confirmation. So in terms of persons who we have pending results for, it's basically 3 persons, but confirmed cases, no.
Health officials say that Las Flores has always been a problematic area, first for malaria years ago, and now for dengue and maybe CHIKV. What is being used is called knockdown spray, a combination of chemical icon and diesel. It targets the adult mosquito, and in households where there are positive cases of dengue, the team sprays the home and the perimeter of 50 meters.
It has a huge migrant community, and you have persons traveling back and forth to Guatemala and Salvador, and in this case El Salvador, which has several thousand chikungunya cases, and even several cultural habits. In terms of positive breeding sites, you have a lot of what we refer to as, or they refer to as pilas, which are containers that they use for laundry. They tend to store quite a bit of water in drums as well, and so you go to Las Flores, you find that in many areas, as Las Flores has expanded, you've also had some areas with some poor housing, poor drainage, and also just a habit of people storing a lot of containers around their premises.
Figures for confirmed dengue are on par with 2013, but there has been a spike in the incidences of hemorrhagic dengue, which is much more serious. That's the reasoning behind the ramped up operations, and with the possibility of CHIKV, those operations will continue. Like we said, don't run for the hills just yet. CHIKV is no Ebola.
I think it has wider ramifications in terms of the labor force, for example. Given the characteristics of chikungunya, you can have people being off work anything from 1 to 2 weeks. If that starts to happen and you have an outbreak, then you have potential losses in that regard. So that is why it needs to be seen as a problem that could go beyond the Ministry of Health. It perhaps doesn't seem to be on the radar as Ebola, which has a higher mortality. Chikungunya can have mortality, but it's very minimal. It can be similar to dengue, and if you have a dengue outbreak, then chikungunya can potentially have the same kind of effect.
According to the Ministry of Health's Epidemiology Unit, there hasn't been a death from hemorrhagic dengue since 2011. Mike Rodon for News 5.